Well, hello, friends. We hope that you're enjoying our summer book club so far. This week, as we go through chapters 4 and 5, we're diving into two truths: that God is generous and God is love. I'm so thankful that Smith includes this chapter about God being generous. It's not always a term that we necessarily think of, but such an important reality of who He is in our lives. You can think about the generosity of God in terms of His loving kindness and forgiveness towards us, just through the generosity of the free gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. What an incredible display of His generosity in our lives. You can think of it in more tangible terms of His generosity towards us by the ways that He provides for us. We have food on the table, a roof over our head. You can also think about it in your relationships, the good gifts that He gives and the people that He's put in our lives. So much to be thankful for there, and considering how God has been generous. And just want to encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to reflect not only on how God is generous in a general sense, but specifically, how has God's generosity been on display in your life? How have you experienced the generous love of God personally? This leads into the next chapter, chapter 5, about God is love. Now, if you have been part of church for a while, or you've been following Jesus for a number of years, unfortunately, sometimes we could hear that phrase, God is love, and sort of turn our minds on autopilot. We've heard this before, we know what this means, but to really think about, how am I experiencing the love of God personally in new and deeper ways on a regular basis? How am I allowing myself to spend time in His Word, spend time in prayer, spend time enjoying fellowship with God, to recognize His incredible love in my life? I so appreciated how Smith brought up the story in Luke 15 of what we know as the prodigal son, right? We're very familiar with that term, prodigal son, and I like how he kind of takes this twist on it to talk about how we could really consider this as the prodigal father. In fact, Tim Keller writes a great book on this called The Prodigal God. I encourage you to read that if you want to dive deeper into this topic. But when you consider this story and how the father in this parable of Luke 15 responds to the younger son who has gone out and been reckless, and he returns home, and then the father responds by throwing him a big party, right? And of course the elder son would look at that and say, that's reckless, why would you do that? So it's such a good reminder to just consider how deeply, and again with the generosity, how generously God demonstrates His own love toward us. So this week, if you didn't get the chance to, highly encourage you to go back to this soul training practice after chapter 4, where he encourages us to recite Psalm 23. And just want to encourage you to go back to that if you didn't get the chance, and just make that part of your regular routine. Psalm 23 is such a powerful chapter full of so much rich imagery, and to really allow yourself to sit in His Word and enjoy this chapter, let it really take root in your heart and mind that this is our reality. For those of us who are in Christ Jesus, this is our God. This is who He is towards us. This is what He does for us. We belong to Him. We truly lack no good thing in Him. So I hope that that psalm will be a great encouragement to you this week, and maybe even a regular part of your rhythms on your journey of following Jesus this summer. So we hope that you're encouraged this week, and we look forward to seeing you next time.